Hello, good evening, and welcome back to another session of Late Night BJs with me, Booker Juice. And tonight we have a very special guest from Malaysia. My good friend Sam is here. Hello, Sam.
Hello, BJ.
All right. Let's start off with telling us about yourself, Sam.
All right. Uh, well, where do I start? Hi, my name is Sam. I'm 20. Holy shit! I was gonna say I was 23. I'm actually 25 this year.
Oh, did you forget the 2 years of the pandemic?
I forgot. I forgot it. There's a good reason why I forgot. Nothing traumatic. But yeah. Okay, so I've just released Lumen Rider Core for crowdfunding. We actually finished crowdfunding. Everything was has been fully funded. We're getting 3 modules out. If Kamen Rider is your thing, if Super Sentai is your thing, if Space Sheriff Gavan, Metal Hero, Samurai Flamenco, all that stuff, it's your thing. By all means, by all means, get the game. I've put so much work into making sure that it fits the feel of these tokusatsu uh, shows, the fight scenes and everything. Something that certain D20 systems or even like PBDA can do. Lumen system is great for that. I suggest you check out Lumen by Spencer Campbell, aka Gila RPGs. Um, I also wanna plug all the people on the project. We got Elisa Yo, aka Ignea Core, um, who's co-writing with me on Lumen Rider Austin, the game. So you ever wanted to do Kamen Riders in the Regency era, we got that for
That sounds so
you.
cool.
It is, yeah. It's also partly inspired by Fate Stay Night. So if you do really like Fate Stay Night, you can just reskin the game. Um, we also have Lumen Rider Capitalites. We have Tina, aka Sweet Cyanide,
Oh,
on the
yeah.
project as artist. So so Lumen Rider Capitalites. It's basically based off old 80s 90s John Carpenter horror-ish, but set in a Southeast Asian city. There's a lot of Catholic religious theming to it. You don't use you don't it's very post-colonial in a fun way, in a gory way. I'm quite excited for that. And we have Lumen Rider D&D, aka Duns and Dungeons. Um, and it's gonna be great for my SEO.
All the Lumen Rider, all of it.
All of
Let's
it,
go.
yeah, yeah. So you get to play like typical fantasy classes and be dancers. I hope to get if they are available. Maria Maison on the
Oh,
project.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Um,
haven't heard of her in a while. I think she's busy, but maybe you can
mm,
reach her.
definitely. No, me and Maria are tight. Um,
Nice. Okay.
yeah. So yeah, that's the Southeast Asian people I've been hooking into, my projects because I don't know. It's like I don't know. They get it, because we all grew up with the same subtitled Japanese TV shows on public television. So
Yeah,
mm,
in our case, what we got was a lot of Tagalog dubbed Super Sentai shows and Kamen Rider shows. So we had back in the day we had Mask Rider Black, which was basically Kamen Rider Black back
yes,
when I
yes,
was a
yes.
kid, and it was dubbed in Tagalog. And one of the interesting things is that there was one time when he would go to the city and the dub was basically we're going to Manila, and then they just go to a random city that's probably Tokyo, and it's like I like how there's a lot of translations that incorporate the local culture of whatever it is being translated to. In Malaysia, was it translated or was it all like subs?
I also I think it was subs. It's definitely subs. How's the experience like for you? Because I'm pretty sure as kids you watch it and you go like, yeah, that's not Manila. That's that's
Well, I was really young at the time, so I was like 3 to 5, maybe 6 years old when it happened. So when that happened to me, he just said, oh, "We're going to Manila," and then they go to a random place. I just thought it was Manila. But
Oh,
looking
okay.
back, I'm like, it's nothing like Manila. It's definitely a Japanese city.
Oh
So
man, it's
it
way
couldn't
more
tell.
upside. Way more
But
upside.
yeah, one of the things that are interesting for me about all of your Lumen Rider titles is that a lot of local no, not local, more like a lot of our culture really seeps through in it. Like I also grew up Catholic, but I tried not to really talk about it because I have a very muddy relationship with that. So if you, I think that's where we'll start. If you don't mind, do you mind talking about the Catholic experience as it pertains to our hobby or in general? Although,
We should.
go ahead.
I mean, it's well. I'm not really. I didn't grow up Catholic. I mean, I grew up with with Catholic people in my life. But I was more a charismatic Christian. But that's the thing. I think we have to sort of like differentiate um Western Christianity and Southeast Asian Christianity, right?
Yeah.
Because it's very mystical. I'm not sure how it is like for you. I do know that a friend of a friend, who is from the Philippines, has joined a Christian cult slash sect. They've set up shop in Malaysia. My friend went to their church. He got very scared because they started doing all sorts of things, like convulsing on the floor and all that, which is, and it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't think that's like the norm for the Philippines, but that's something that also happens here in Malaysia for Malaysian Chinese people. That sort of like spiritual, the mysticism, right? It's kind of weird. It's very like, I mean, I'm not even going to say it's valid. It's not valid. It's not very good, I think. Um, because it leads to a lot of things. But that's another conversation. But yeah, that's the sort of like thing I'm working with, right? Where like we have this Western thing come in, and it comes and we practice it in a very warp way. Um,
And I guess in my experience, there's a lot of the Catholicism here in the Philippines that you would experience would not be familiar to a lot of Westerners because a lot of like the earlier animist cultures really seeped in. Like for the case of the Philippines, we'll have to remember that the Spanish arrived in the 1500s, and
mm,
then they introduced Catholicism, and then that became the majority religion for not
but it was
everywhere, but for a lot of places in the Philippines for 300 years. So by the time they left, the type of Catholicism that we would have is like my favorite story is that there is a culture of some farmers that I read somewhere wherein when they would start planting their crop for the season, they would fence the area that they would plant in, right? But before they fence it, they have to put iron nails because iron nails were able to bind Jesus, and therefore it should be able to bind lesser spirits, right? Makes sense. So they
yes,
put all the iron nails around the perimeter, and then they would put their fencing, and then while they're
mm,
doing that, they would have to chant the Lord's Prayer in
mm,
Latin backwards. So they have to do that. So that's a very
okay. I like that.
it's not an invalid thing. It's something that it's a belief that we have that it will actually ward off all
Mm,
these
mm,
bad
mm.
spirits, these encantos.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I do. Yeah. Definitely. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. The idea that iron nails can. I like that. I'm gonna be thinking about that. Yeah. 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 I think to clarify, when I say like invalid, I'm definitely talking about my own experiences with how these things are used in urban Christian settings in a very predatory way. Um, because you rarely see this sort of community, at least here anyway, practicing that sort of mysticism without some kind of cult. Uh, yeah, you,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I think that's very different from animism, right? Because over there it's like I'm not sure, but over here it's very much linked to people getting manipulated because you're vulnerable and by this central figure in an organization using this sort of thing. Yeah, you rarely
Well,
you
to be
yeah.
fair, it does also happen here in the Philippines that there's a lot of
Mm,
like it's not just Catholicism. It's basically like a thousand flavors of Christianity.
mm,
And you do have the occasional cult that will prey
mm,
on the unsuspecting, on those
yeah.
who are, because religion really attracts those who are looking for
Yeah.
meaning in life, and sometimes that leaves you vulnerable. Not
Mm,
always, but sometimes it does. And there are a lot of people who just want to earn money or do what they want with you, and I guess that also happens in RPG communities. There's something about the GM
sorry. Ah,
segue
ah.
because there's something
Okay,
about the
okay.
GM slash player dynamic that is also very it invites the type of people that would like to take advantage of such a situation wherein the GM has more that's something that I also want to like really fight against in terms of the culture. Like the
Yeah,
GM should not be elevated to a higher position to the other
yeah,
players, etc., etc.
yeah,
Have you seen that also in?
yeah. Um,
Well, let me know if it's uncomfortable.
no, no, no.
We
I'm
can
trying
just
to
move.
like which parts of it to like unreal because like I mean I agree with you, right? I think I think nerddom, geekdom, um, personalities, it can it can it does attract people who want to be right all the time. And because I think nerds and geeks who grew up in 80s, 90s, early 2000s, they do have there is a very general inferiority complex um, compared to now. So I think that's how a lot of them cope with it. Like this isn't me like making a general statement. It's just what I've observed, and this is what I've been affected by. These sort of personalities. I'm trying to choose. I think for this whole interview, I'm trying to very hard to choose my words very carefully.
Yeah.
But
The
yeah,
I suppose it's also a good time to talk about when we say RPGC, especially when we first
hmm,
conceptualize it way back
wow.
in 2017. Wow, 2017 is already like a way back time now. But what I was saying is, sorry, I got distracted. When we conceptualized it, it was never a centralized thing because
No.
it's not just the Southeast Asia is not a singular experience even amongst people from the same place, let alone
Yeah.
people from Malaysia and the Philippines and
Yeah.
Singapore, and we're also getting Indonesians now.
Hmm.
So these are really, if it weren't for RPGC, we would actually not have
Yeah.
intermingled with each other as much, right?
Yeah.
So
But
it's a
I
go
when
ahead.
was the first time I met you? 2018.
Yeah, 2018. That was around 1 year after we tried pushing the RPGC idea.
Yeah. Wow, that was a different time. Very different group of people. Uh, anyway, yeah. I would even say like within like 5 km of my house, you have so many different types of Chinese people. Like specific, don't talk about Malays or Indians. Talk about Chinese people. There are so many different types. It's like a culture barrier, not barrier, but it's like a culture gate, right? Sort of like a wall between Chinese people who are English educated, Chinese people who are Chinese educated, and then there's rich Chinese people who are Chinese educated. So like really, there's no. I think for RPG SEA, there's really is no one voice because everybody. I think naturally everybody is spread out, isn't it? Like we're
Yeah,
all doing something. Like I'm doing very different things from what I guess you're doing, what Zedek is doing, from what Pam is doing. So it's very um yeah, it's nice. I like that. Everybody's weird. You know? Everybody's weird.
yeah. So I remember when we met. Yeah, that was a different time, 2018. We were really pushing the idea of we're distinct from each other, but we do have connections. We are able to talk to each other and find what common ground there is, and also find a lot
Mm,
of what uncommon ground there is to
mm,
either
yeah,
it's still a bonding experience when you realize, oh, we have the same so and so, or oh, we have
mm,
very different so and so.
yeah,
So that's why when we were able back when we were able to travel, some of us were like traveling to Malaysia, and then there was an event in Singapore, and then there was an
mm,
event in the Philippines,
yeah,
and then we'll try to intermingle with each other, and that's
yeah,
basically how it started. But then a lot of
yeah,
things happened. Going back to things that we are being careful about.
yeah,
But in addition to that, a lot of things also, well, the world also happened. So suddenly
yeah,
everything's closed, and
yeah.
we weren't able to travel with each other so much. So how is that experience for you as a game designer? But like being
Well,
the general Southeast Asian, everybody's weird aesthetic, and
yeah,
working in the industry, well,
yeah,
in the capacity that we are working.
yes. But it's kind of weird because I think I'm in a unique place because I am privileged and I'm going to the UK for masters. Obviously, I'm that privileged. So and I've it's not as if I haven't been like beautifully doing my game design work. In fact, it's I've actually have had a solid income for like the past year and a half. It's quite good, because of like one, I have the time to set up the connections and to actually do this work. Two, again, I'm privileged. Three is that I think it took me a long time to get my voice as a creator, and I know people get me on board on their projects because of the voice, because like I have, but again, that comes from like having being able to do that over time. It is it's something I want to get out of because it's unstable. Because
It
it's
is. I am very. I don't know what word to use there, but I myself am unable to work on RPGs full time because I went to school also as a privileged private person, and I was able to study mathematics, and I went to a mathematically inclined
mm,
job, and I'm sorry, that job pays much better than RPG. So
uh
unless people start matching that, which is not gonna
yeah,
happen,
yeah,
I can't leave that job
yeah.
because that's the well anyway.
Do you want to though? Would, if let's say someone like I guess like Magpie or someone was like, hey BJ, we want you on our staff to be on our staff for as a permanent place, and we'll pay you, this amount. Like, would you take it? Would you still be into that? Well, not even Magpie. Maybe if you had the chance to do your own thing.
You know, um, I think this is very different from like how Twitter RPG would answer. But if, for example, Wizards of the Coast were to approach me one day and say, "We're going to make a Southeast Asian setting for Magic the Gathering, and we want you," I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm a go. I guess with respect to my job as an actor, I'm good at what I do,
Mm,
but I don't love what I do.
mm,
So I will keep doing it because it's something that I can do, that I am skilled at, and I'm a lot better at it than others.
yeah.
But if there is an opportunity to work full time in RPGs, and my lifestyle will not be affected,
Mm,
or rather would be affected positively even. Like
yeah.
here in the Philippines, the dream is to go to the U.S., or at least the dream of the generation before us is to
Mm,
migrate to the United States and then work there. These days, it's not as hot because I'm looking at the United States and all of the prejudice, and I'm like,
yeah, yeah. They don't like us.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I can get there. Yeah.
okay, so our topic today is staying afloat in the RPGC. So let's go back to the challenges that we've had. How about you? I guess I would like to ask you to answer the same question that you presented to me. If you were like, full time
No,
RPG game dev, no.
no, no. I'm technically full time. It's just that I do a lot of gigs, and because I do a lot of gigs, and some of those gigs have been very generous to me.
Hmm.
It does give me time to focus on Lumen Rider, Capital Lights, all that, which is it's all coming quite nicely. It's just um, I do it 5 to 6 days a week. I'm cutting it down to four. Um, it's very taxing on the brain. Um, and I've always been teasing burnout. I have not actually burnt out yet, but I've been teasing it, and it's very. I would like I would like the freedom to do stuff I'm not emotionally invested in. If
Ah,
you get what I mean.
I get that. I get that.
Yeah. I love what I do. I love the games. I'm very happy to be in this position to begin with, right? Because how many people are in this position, right? How many people can say that, because I think compared to my peers of in RPG SCA, I have gotten more opportunities. Like I need to be very frank with that, partly because I don't know. It's just I don't know, but I know that I gotten more than I deserve, which makes me not want to take it for granted. And that's it's a challenge because I want to give it my all. I feel as if I need to compete with the US and UK, um, that side of the world, and it I would need to compete. Not the way isn't compete, but I need to stand out, right? And and I think I've done quite a good job of that just by being me, just by being honest with my work. Um, that's how I got my sponsorship from IGDN. Um, but again, like it's like there's that pressure to not take it for granted. Um, yeah, and there's also the idea that I want to be able to, because I've been in that situation before where like I don't have those same opportunities, and there are other people having more opportunities than me, but they're not helping me out or helping the peers out. So I do try to rope in people that I can trust into stuff I make. So like Alyssa is a very close friend of mine. I she's on Caplites and she's on Lumen Rider. I try and like get her involved because like I don't know, it's just uh yeah, it's just it's both an integrity thing and work with people you trust thing. Um, I think as much as people do say RPG SEA is a thing that people like, I feel as if it can certain parts of RPG the scene does ignore us. They acknowledge us, but that's as far as they go. Um, which I cannot say like, oh, I'm entitled to that. I cannot say I'm entitled to that attention because, but at the same time, it would be nice if we, you know, if we had a bit more. Um, so like, I'm trying to choose my words very carefully because I'm not trying to diss anybody. It's more like, it's not. I'm just trying to say like the situation is. It feels as if like we are not we. It feels as if like at least for me and people I know, it feels like you acknowledge us, but that's it. But
Yeah, I think I have an inkling of what you're trying to say. So basically,
it's
let's see if we can parse
it's
through
quite it's
that.
quite it's quite hard.
It is hard. I guess one of the things is that when we were doing RPG SEA, the intent wasn't originally to be noticed by the RPG scene at large. It
Yeah,
was for us to notice each other. That was the intent at the start.
yeah,
So I know it has evolved since then, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, check out the RPG SEA scene," but there are also a lot of difficulties locally. It's not something that
mm,
I'm not sure if it's the same in your area, but in
mhm,
our city, if you're going to make an RPG and you try to cater to a local market, that's not financially
no,
viable. Like it will be fun, but you're not gonna make money. And unfortunately, the bills happen. Bills come in. You have to pay them, and
Yeah.
you have to figure something out. And the only way to make that work right now, in my opinion, is to to be seen and to be recognized by folks in
The-
the West
yeah.
and
Yeah.
becoming part of their projects. And there's only so much of that.
Yeah. Because
Like,
it does feel like it is. I'm very grateful for like people like Tony from Plus One EXP. I'm very grateful for Soul Muppet. People like even people from Exalted Funeral. Like I can like those are the people who showed up to session zero. They give a shit. Like they really, really, really do give a shit. And like I think a lot of us have gotten like opportunities because of that. But that's only so much. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. It's not a diss on the people who have given us opportunities,
Yeah, yeah.
but
I am very grateful to the white people who have helped us out to me. Because
hi,
really, really, like yeah.
chaotic. Chaotic is basically talking about, ano po yung TRPG? Laro po ba ng bata yan? So basically, let's say, in Tagalog, of what's a TRPG? When Filipinos talk to each other. Is that a game for children? So, yeah, it's also the recognizability thing. It's something that the RPG, sorry, an outsider of the RPG SEA scene probably may not notice is that
Mm.
just about everyone who can make a noise is already privileged because they have internet. Not everyone can do that here.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I have a product out there called Alamat ng Astig, the legend of cool people. Basically, it's not written by me. It's written by a friend of mine called Fabs, who's doing better for himself now. But at the time that he wrote it, he didn't even have internet connection. So this is something that he couldn't do on his own. He wrote the RPG, and I had to help him
mm.
produce it. So that's what I did, and that's just one example of someone who is very into RPGs but
Mm.
cannot break the barrier of middle
Yeah,
class Southeast Asian.
yeah. I think I do feel a lot of us. I think a lot of people we know, like you and me, we are like quite okay off, isn't it? Like the people who have made a stamp on RPGs or even like the scene in general. I think from speaking for myself is it does play a big factor. It's huge. It's a huge factor.
Yes, because even before the RPG SEA scene happened, or even before the term was coined, it's not like there were no Southeast Asians that were being given opportunities because there were people who were like, oh, my name is so and so, and I have the capability to go to the US and talk to RPG folks, and I will try to write for them.
Mm,
And email was around in the 2000s, in the knots.
yeah,
Even in the late 90s, there were people who were able to correspond with
yeah,
snail mail somehow, and there
yeah.
were contributors. But the problem was always that when they break in, it was always, I got into the door. Now let me close this behind me.
Mm.
I think is that similar to what you're saying?
To Malay, I guess it's part of it. Um, that is part of it, but I guess for me, it's more like what's happening now, and more of like the fact that I don't know, it's just going back to the whole like me thinking about like the whole privilege thing. Like that people who don't have the ability to even like take time off to do this. It
Oh
sounds
yeah,
very like I guess it sounds very like obnoxiously bourgeois for me to like sort of like pretend to care, but that's a thing, and I acknowledge that position, and that's like I don't feel guilty about it. It's just something that is, and it's interesting to think about. Um, because I'll never fully know. I'll probably never fully understand what it's like to be in that situation because it's not. I didn't live in that
yeah,
situation.
for
Yeah, yeah,
for real, for
yeah,
real.
yeah, yeah. But um, but yeah, I mean, speaking of staying afloat, I mean that's a big reason I am staying afloat. That's a big reason I am planning to leave TTRPGs. Not leave as in like step away because I have been stepping away from TTRPGs very slowly. Like I think like RPG Twitter used to be a lot more vocal in 2019, isn't it? 2020. Um, like I feel it's died down a lot, isn't it? Um,
It's possible, although my current point of view there is that
mm,
a lot of people have gotten gigs. A lot of people who were noisy have gotten gigs, and in order to maintain those gigs, they have to be quiet.
that's
That's
me.
one.
That's
uh,
me. So go
another
ahead.
one is another one is that they've entered into one too many Twitter arguments, and they're so over it.
Yeah,
Because I don't know, Twitter can be really toxic, especially in our
yeah,
space.
yeah.
And
I
people's lives go on.
yeah. People's lives go on. I guess for me, it's like this fear, right? Cause like I'm 20, I'm a 97 baby. Um, I've seen. I'm very glad to have. I'm very glad to have seen like people around my age like fuck up immensely and have gotten like this potential career just ruined, right? Um, like
Uh-huh.
I mean I'll just name a name like remember AJ. Um,
You'll have to remind
AJ.
me.
I think Bolt. He did Bolt the RPG.
Doesn't ring a bell, unfortunately.
Okay,
Well,
okay. I mean, you don't have to look him up, but
it's late night. It's feel free to like
yeah.
make gossip and stuff. Just
No,
remember that it's gossip when we're talking about these
it,
things.
this isn't really like gossip.
Okay.
Um, because it's open. I'm not talking about things people can know, but like basically, he acted in a certain way which was harmful and quite naive and foolish, and it got him flagged. I think that he deserved the flag. And then he came back and he was like, "Aha, fuck you guys! I bet you miss me." And then everybody shot him down.
Oh
Now
crap!
he's
I definitely don't remember this. I
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, the point is like the guy's my age, right? Um, the guy's my age. I've seen like other people my age as well. Sort of like leave the scene or get kicked out of the scene because of stuff they've said, because of stuff people did have certain ways they interacted. I think that's progressively that fear has crept into my soul as along with like the number of gigs I've been getting. And it's like when you get a new gig, I'm like, holy shit, like this like I think when I think few years ago I have said like I have I think even like relatively recently I have said like very questionable shit, right? Um, which like some of it was well intentioned, but it took off very badly. Um, so I mean, having said those things down those days, like you can tell like certain people because of those things don't talk to you or they don't acknowledge you or whatever. They sort of like soft block you. Like I know like there are there is like at least one prominent figure from the US who has soft blocked me because of like sort of like sort of like a joke I made, not necessarily like wrong, but like not even sorry, not necessarily like malicious, but like it was like one of those ableist things that you just are so used to that you don't realize. So like it's one of those things where you cut you off and you're like, okay, um, I'm not entitled to you to you engaging with me. Is this something I have to live with because you're obviously trying to curate your space and it's fine. But I think about that. Like I think about like the fact that like I think like some of these people have done my age have done a lot of things which have pushed people out of the community, pushed people out of the scene, have sort of like cut off income. At the end of it, the result is you cutting off income from people, right? So I am progressively learning to be more careful online. I'm learning to be more careful in general, learning to be more sincere. Um, that's a big part of me staying afloat, right? And I think it's very scary because I guess for me, because I'm young, right, I can go anywhere. I don't want this to be. I don't want to be. I don't want to be hobbled so early, right? 'Cause it feels. It feels. Um. It. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I think I understand. Okay, so yeah, yeah, pardon us. We do have like
Yeah.
um, neither of us have English as our first language, right?
Oh no no. I'm English educated Chinese.
Oh, well, that's not what I meant. More like when um, I think in Tagalog, and I have to like translate.
Okay. Yeah.
So sometimes I also have like a loading moment. But basically, I think the way I see it is that a lot of a lot of online people, or rather, actually, online people in general, including you and me, we
Yeah.
we do get hurt, and this is a thing that has been acknowledged a lot, that people can cause harm to one another, and the natural thing to do, the proper thing to do, and
Yeah.
it is for our own mental well being, is to like erect all these blocks,
Mm,
and we are entitled to that. But what the internet
absolutely.
cannot, I feel like what the internet cannot afford to give right now, and I don't really think there's a solution to it, is recompense, not necessarily reconciliation, but the acknowledgement that okay, you know how in face to face interactions there eventually becomes okay, I don't like you, you don't like me, but at least I respect you. It's
Yes. Yeah.
always the extreme of I don't like you, I don't like me, I don't like you, you don't like me, and then there's no recompense, there's
Yeah.
nothing that we can do, we have to be enemies now. I feel like
Yes.
Twitter's or internet's full of that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it becomes a lot harder when there's income involved.
Yeah. I think for us, there's always income involved, isn't it? Um, Especially in the cases of like these people who have pushed people out of the space, right? Like it is an income thing at the end of the day. So yeah.
And okay, I'll bring up something that I'm not sure if you remember, but something
Mm.
that you mentioned earlier reminded me of it. When you mentioned that we are acknowledged, but that's about it, right? There's also because I'm also getting the feeling that we're only kept around as long as it's useful for them visually to keep us around in
But here's the
this,
thing. Oh, sorry. Go on. Yeah, go on. Go on.
because because they see that, oh look, minorities, we're gonna put the minority here. And
Yeah, but no, but like, visually, like what? But like,
I'm not saying
no,
it
no,
makes sense, I'm saying
no,
that's
no, I don't know, but like, we're all very different. Like
yeah, yeah.
Aaron Lim makes very different stuff. Like Pam makes very different stuff. It's very like, what visuals do you want?
And it's not even like something that they understand, because to them, when for me, for example, when they say, oh, I'm gonna hire a Filipino, they're thinking of a Phil Am. Generally, they almost never think about Filipino in the sense that Filipino in the Philippines. And
I hear that. Yeah.
um I do acknowledge my brethren, my kababayans in the States, and that they're also having their own struggles and their own issues.
Mm,
But their culture and my culture, even though they're both Filipino cultures, there are differences between them that they don't see, and then they just see, oh, RPG SEA. I'll put this person in because that helps me visually.
RPG. Yeah.
Until we say something that they don't agree with.
Mm. Yeah. Which is why I shut up nowadays.
I remember. I was going to bring up that I remember you having a spat with. Well, turns out this guy was really a problem person to begin with. Well, I'm not sure if I should bring him up. His name is the opposite of Axis Rising.
Axis Rising.
So sorry. How do
Let's just say the name.
we'll just say the name. Swords Fall.
Oh, Swords Fall. I didn't have a spat. It wasn't a spat. It was more like I was doing a bit, like a comedic bit for like me and everybody of my followers was like, was like in on it. You know, it was everybody knew what it was. Then like some random big source for this basic came in and it was like took it out of context. You know, so like I don't know. I actually gained followers from that. It's okay. But at the time, I was like, what the hell is going on? Who is this? Who is this person? I was so small that time.
You weren't even aware of who this person was.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that person really used their high follower count at the time to
yeah.
really rain down on you. Thank you,
But
tabletop cinema. It's diversity hires is the term I'm looking for.
there was, yeah, I know, but like, I mean, I know, like, ever since then, like, Swords Fall did have like, I mean, they've ended up where they are now, um, and they sort of like reap what they sow in that regard. Um, yeah, I'm not. I would say like, I think for me, I can sort of like tell who is and who isn't a diversity hire based on like how much they engage with like how much they engage with the stuff I do or like the stuff I write. So like they mentioned something specific that they like from me, or they mentioned like something I did that they resonated with. You know what I mean? So I know that they're not just hiring me because like you know I'm Chinese Malaysian or whatever. I think that's a good way to suss out who is. I also yeah I think that's a good way. But yeah, the it does happen. The dog piling does happen. I don't know. It's mm,
Well, I have not had the displeasure of being dogpiled, but mostly because in my case I try to be small as well.
mm,
Not because I'm burned one time too many. I'm actually
yeah
like very fiery in person.
yeah
I think the reason why I myself try to be small is that in my local spaces I have all the privilege. I'm middle class. I'm cis
yeah.
male. I'm I'm of an ethnicity that people find appealing because
Well, what does that
that's a
mean?
thing here.
What do you?
I have
I mean,
light skin tone, and therefore a lot of people think that hey, this must be a responsible person.
oh, okay.
So there's
I
that.
did. I didn't know that was a thing.
That's a thing
But
here.
okay.
Wherein if you are if you have a darker skin tone, you have less opportunities given to
Yeah.
you. Stuff like that. It's not cool,
Yeah.
but I acknowledge that that's something that sometimes I'm like, did I get chosen just because I have the privilege to get chosen?
Yeah.
And I am cognizant of that also, even in the RPG space, in the RPG SEA
Mm,
space, because I feel like if I try to embiggen myself, I will get all the things that are supposed to be for other people. So I suppose this is
mm,
also why I probably won't succeed in the RPG scene because that's always like my job here is to promote other people. It's
yeah.
because I've seen too many of my predecessors come into the door and shut the door behind them. So now
Mm,
that I'm not even in the door. I have my one foot on the door so that it's not closed, and I'm like,
yeah.
come in, come on. That's what I feel like.
I think yeah. I think we just do according to our conscience. I'm not gonna deny that I am selfish in a certain way, because I do I do need to secure
We
some
do
sort of
need
future for
everyone
myself.
needs to eat. Everyone needs to have money for retirement and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's
Like,
like I am.
oh my god,
Yes,
I
I go.
suddenly remembered that one reason why I probably will not go for an RPG job if someone tells me go uproot yourself and go to the US
Yeah.
and work. The one thing that's probably stopping me is that I have a retirement plan in my current company.
Mm, yeah. I is that's good. I could go for a retirement plan right now at 25. It would be nice.
It's a long term thing that will only really be fruitful after you've been with a company for like a decade or so.
Hmm,
But you know,
but stability, right?
stability is important. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, you don't hate your job.
Yeah, I don't
So
hate my job. I don't love it,
yeah,
but I don't hate it.
yeah. I mean, I think one thing interesting about my generation as young people, nah, as my
It's okay.
generation
It's
is like,
okay. I understand. I
I don't
just
know.
turned 36.
No, no. One thing about us is that even though a lot of us come from privileged backgrounds in my circle, right, we are still struggling because that's just the way the economy has worked. That's the way the job market has worked. We went to Monash, is a very like prestigious upper class university, but everybody who leaves Monash, everybody earns like below average wage. Not for like not for like bad work either, but like everyone's overworked, underpaid. I'm lucky to be overworked and underpaid on my own terms. Um, but like, yeah, that's just like that's just how it is, and it's very like I think any one of us would be like, oh shit, a company that promises a retirement plan and promises stability that we don't hate. Oh, okay, that's pretty nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
um,
I survive. My salary is not super high.
yeah,
Um,
who needs super high?
yeah. I suppose the way I see it is that if my salary is shown to someone in the US, they'll think I'm a minimum wage worker. But here in the Philippines, that's like, hey, that's a lot of money.
Mm, yeah, I mean, it's a good thing. I guess things, at least in Malaysia, they're okay, affordable. Um, yeah, okay. You know, it's great for the tourists. The expats who come here and like, oh, this is because my one of my uncles, he comes from the UK. He stays here now. He's like 50 ringgit. That's like £10. Wow, that's so cheap. So so the way he spends is a bit more. I mean, he's not like extravagant or anything. It's just funny. Like they go like, oh shit, it's so cheap here, and we're like, oh,
Oh yeah,
okay.
a lot of things in Malaysia. Well, I only have 1 month of experience because I was there for a month, right, for a work thing. Back
Mm.
in a previous job that I hated much more. But that back in 2018, to give everyone like a quick background, I went to KL to Kuala Lumpur for a month because of a work thing. And that was also the time when RPG SEA was starting. So I was able to mingle with everyone. And one of the things that I really got excited about was that I got milk tea in some plastic bag.
Okay, yeah,
It was 1 ringgit. I was like, holy crap! This thing is worth 1 ringgit.
it's not there anymore. You
It's
can't
not there
find
anymore.
it.
Oh no.
Two
The
ringgit 50 at least.
but that's what I remember, and I also
uh,
remember that because I have skin allergies. So another thing that I remember was that my antihistamines there were super cheap in comparison. Like if you translate it to Philippine peso, it becomes like 6 pesos per
uh,
tablet, whereas
yeah,
here in the Philippines, it's like the equivalent of like 30 pesos now. So it's like,
yeah.
huh?
I think Malaysia does have a lot to be grateful for. I guess speaking of like your time here, like that's also like I think it's just an interesting segue for me to go into is like um it's like how do I even phrase this? You work. I guess I would like to say I'm very grateful to have experienced certain personalities which have been challenging, and that's sort of like giving me a good example on how not to act um in this. I think a part of it is like part of staying afloat, right? Is like sort of like seeing people who have sunk and sort of being like, okay, yeah, let's not do that. Um,
Uh, all right.
um,
Uh,
you know what
uh,
I'm talking about,
yeah, I guess
like,
we're going there, right?
yeah. I mean, because it is important. I feel that there is, at least for me, learning the lessons I have to learn the hard way is, um, I guess, because these people tend to be very well intentioned. It's just that I think we also need to be check ourselves to be like, okay, I have good intentions here, and I do have a vision, but am I dismissing people dismissing people in favor of like me achieving my vision for, like, for example, the Malaysian RPG community, right? Because there because I'll be honest with you, it hasn't moved since 2018, and it feels very alienating for me because I am part of RPG SEA. I do have a name outside of Malaysia, but in Malaysia itself, I don't really have much connection to anybody because I sort of like stepped away from that. Um, was that a good decision? I don't know, but I think it's the healthy decision for
Well,
me.
if the space got toxic, I
Oh,
suppose.
I don't know. It just didn't go anywhere. Um, like the people like the leaders who have fallen down have also been keeping quiet. But it's kind of sad because I think what makes me sad is like these are a lot of these guys are people I was introduced to when I came on the scene, where I listened how to GM, all that sort of things. Like we were friendly, we had fun and all that. Then suddenly it's like something happens and everybody just sort of goes away, sort of like spreads back. And now like I don't contact them anymore. I'm not even associated with them. I don't think they want to be associated with me, which is very like, is there no room for, like you said, recompense? Like this is not online. This is real life, and it's like it's very like nerds are weird, man.
Well, when we get into a fight, we get into a fight, man, and it stays. I guess there's also similar things in the
Yeah.
Philippine scene, things that we don't really talk about also, and I think that's something that is very interesting in that I find it similar
Mm,
between our experiences, but very different from what our peers in the West experience. Is that when there's
mm.
like a toxic person or a person who had a lot of issues
Control, control
and
issues.
control issues, even issues of abuse or worse.
Mm,
When there are people like that here in the Philippines, what happens is that it's more of us just deciding to not talk about that person anymore.
mm,
It's more of like everyone turning their backs to that person, and as opposed to something like in the West, I'm not sure. Of course, I'm not a Westerner, so I can't say with certainty. But from what I
yeah,
am seeing, is that when there's a toxic person, they will they will hold the banner up. The toxic person here, avoid
yeah,
person at all costs.
that's,
We don't
yeah,
leave those. I think for better or
yeah,
for worse, we're like, oh, that person. It's more of a whisper network. Like, oh, that person is a problem. That person
yeah,
is a broken stair. Stuff like that.
yeah. I think it's the same thing with here as well. I think it does. Yeah, I think it's the same here as well. Yeah, I think there's a bout of paranoia to it, um, because I've been a target of whisper networks, and I've been in a whisper network, and it's very. I don't things usually don't get solved. I
It just
feel in
becomes
my
invisible. Like I know a person once,
yeah.
someone I used to date, ha, who said she said that not talking about something makes
Mm,
that thing invisible. It doesn't make it unreal.
yes, but because I think in the case of like the Malaysian RPG community leader, it was very much like he wanted to keep things under wraps, but there was still effects to it, right? There was still repercussions for that. Like you said, like it's not unreal. Um, so like I think that also adds into like the fact that people eventually started turning against him. Um, because of that, yeah, it's that's I mean that's no, and after that is done, it's just yeah, there's nothing much left,
Yeah,
and yeah,
I guess in a sense also that because I'm familiar with the person, and unfortunately, yeah, I was close to the person because when I was there, he was basically the person who was like really
mm,
welcoming to me, and he
yeah,
was in that sense he was nice to me,
he
but
is nice. He was nice. He's
yeah,
very generous. You know
but
what I mean?
Just because a person is nice doesn't mean that they're
Yeah.
not doing bad things. And
Yes.
if a person is doing bad things but was nice to you, that the fact that he was nice to you shouldn't, or in this case, nice to me.
Definitely.
My point of view there is that I I still shouldn't shield this person from the things that he has
No.
done, because he has to face them one way or another.
Yeah.
And we were talking about recompense earlier.
Yeah.
For me, there can be no recompense if there is no guilt or shame, and
Yes.
that's the first step. And then
Yes.
recompense doesn't necessarily happen. You
Mm.
can do all the right things, you can make the right apologies, you can make the right
Yeah.
penance, and the person you hurt, the people you hurt, still are
Yeah.
entitled to not forgive you, because
Yes.
that's just how the human emotions work. And you're the
Yeah.
one who was the aggressor, and you have to live with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think about that because, like, I think for me, I don't know if it's gaslighting or not. I think that itself is a symptom of gaslighting. But like, I believe for a long time that I was a source of harm to the community. Um, yeah, because of things this person said, and I couldn't find any proof against it. I didn't fully understand it because I was what 18. Yeah, I was 18, 19 at the time. So like, um, so like it is some sort of like fear, right? For me, um, yeah, it is sort of like a fear, and I think that's partly why nowadays I also want to be more careful in how I like approach conflict or how I avoid conflict in these contexts. It's like I don't know. Part of me is like I don't know which person you're talking about because there are like at least two.
There are at least two. Oh no,
So like
I know both of them.
okay, yeah. I guess it applies for both of them. So yeah, we used to be in a club, right? The three of us, like now our own private group chat and all that, where there was sort of like a whisper network about the usual like troublemakers in the scene. Then turns out like you know who were the real troublemakers there. So it's ironic. Yeah, it's sad. It's a sad situation. Yep.
And whisper networks are, I don't know. I feel like, while I
Depends on the
acknowledge that that's
context.
part of the culture, I also feel like a lot of it can be weaponized.
I think
Anyway,
sometimes you need, but yeah. Ooh,
we have a few viewers. If you have questions for Sam, feel free to just
yeah,
shoot your shot, and we'll try to talk about it before we adjourn.
yeah,
We'll probably like stay afloat for another, stay afloat for another 5 to 10 minutes.
yeah.
The meantime, is there something that you'd like to bring up also with the RPG scene,
I
Southeast
don't know.
Asian scene? Like, do we talk about the Singaporeans
Wow.
now while they're not here?
The
Just
Singaporeans.
kidding.
I don't know. They're not. I really only know like
I know
Shao.
the Curious Chimeras. Yeah, all right.
Apart from that, I know like there's like some D&D streaming thing, but I don't do D&D streaming, so I don't really follow. I don't.
Yeah, yeah. There's a Twitch channel called the Fourth Culture,
No,
and
no. There's more. There's like more, but I'm not.
yeah,
I'm not familiar.
there's a lot actually. I think what's interesting with the Singapore scene, this is an outsider's perspective, so I could be
Mm,
entirely wrong. Again, I keep saying those disclaimers because those are important disclaimers. These are
yeah.
just outsiders' perspectives. But my
Yeah.
view of how the Singapore scene works is that they are all very well, okay. But how do we make a business out of this? And this
Yes.
is important to them, and it's not as important to me as a
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
So when I see that, that's part of their culture. They want to. Well, of course, everyone wants to earn from it, but it's always like it encourages the creation of mini corporations to create products,
Yeah.
and that means that they probably don't talk to each other as much because they see each other as
Mm,
competition.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The Malaysian scene is a bit like more like that as well. Um, I think it's I can't criticize it because I feel like I'm also that kind of mindset, right? Because I do I do like I don't know like uh, I do feel as if like it is important to me because I do. I guess for us here, we do the Chinese people specifically. We really do like our business, our hustle culture, right? So it's pretty much ingrained to a lot of us that like if I'm doing something like this, there has to be some return, which is my mindset. Part of staying afloat, um, and I don't mind the mindset, but I won't force anybody else to take it because it's your choice.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know what's best for you. Yeah, I don't think I think in RPG I say nobody knows what's best for anybody. It's
Everybody's
not
just doing their
anybody's.
own thing.
Yeah, yeah, people really are doing our own thing. We are all doing our own thing. Every now and then we collab, but that's it. We're just doing our own thing. Um, I don't know if people see that. I would like people to see that.
There's a
Uh,
strong perception right now for us that they have. There's a strong perception sometimes that I'm getting that they think we're a unit.
yeah. Well,
Um,
even when you use the word us, right? I'm like, I don't really do much with you,
yeah, yeah.
so in the first place,
Oh my
so
gosh, our RPG worlds are so different. I'm more of an OSR guy.
yeah, I'm a ravenous indie person, um, with magpie aspirations. Don't tell magpie. Nah, I'm joking.
It's okay. I'm of the opinion that all those RPGs, because I like differences.
Mm.
I'm not sure. Here again is another one of my BJ thinks this is how the West works. But when I look at the West, I'm like, they each have their own camps. They have an OSR camp, they have a story game
Yeah,
camp, they have a D&D camp. And I'm
have
like,
a
I like them all. I mean,
yeah,
I prefer OSR and I design OSR, but
yeah, yeah,
if there's a story game person in the group and they want to like collaborate with me, then sure. That's
yeah,
how the Philippine mindset works at least. We're
yeah.
not
Same.
we don't have like OSR versus story game fights. It's just they're both RPGs.
Which is why Discourse confuses me. I mean, remember there was a big hoo-ha about genre emulation, and I didn't really get it because I'm like, I mean, I mean, you're making stuff, that's like other stuff. I don't. What's the issue? What's the issue about genre? I don't get it. I don't understand Discourse.
Oh, tabletop. Oh, it's large. Wait, let's see if we can make that smaller.
Shit.
I don't think we can make that smaller. I'll just hide myself. There you go.
Okay.
Tabletop Cinema says that there's so much unsaid and redacted, and it seems to be a result of the informal nature of networking and passion project versus business mentalities. Do you think RPGC should move into more structured business and publishing modes?
We
Do
are
you want to take
trying.
this?
We are trying. It is so hard.
Oops, I hid myself. How do I? Sorry, I'm an expert, guys. Ha, there you go.
That's alright.
So,
Yeah,
go ahead, Sam.
I don't know. We're trying. There are. I think there are things coming along. It's just it takes a while to get started up. Um, a lot of our structured business and publishing models, for me at least, and I think for Ray as well, to an extent, is relying on, um, for back of a better term, small to mid-sized indie publishing in the West.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I think that's if you're thinking about RPG as a models, this is something that was talked about back in 2018 and 2019, right? Where we
True,
talked
true.
about how difficult it was to deliver shit to like Malaysia to Philippines, or even like let's say I publish Capital Lights. Like, what's the distribution like just to send physical stuff to where you are? And somehow like Philippines is so big, Indonesia is so big. You got Laos, you got Myanmar, you got Cambodia, you got language, you got so many different languages. Like, how does that? how do you unpack that? And like I'm really just like a 25-year old like rabbit game designer. I don't have the I don't have the
It's
I don't
interesting.
know how to.
For me, being a bit older,
You know.
if I look at it, it's something that is certainly doable. Um, First of all, materials are cheaper locally because this is where paper comes from. For example, this i- this is where glue comes from. So the raw material of making books,
Mm,
it's technically cheaper here, but it's still money, it's still time, it's still effort, and the idea of a publishing company of RPGs particularly will require the amount of capital and the amount of gains that I could see from it at this juncture is something that I am not willing to stake the amount of capital needed.
mm,
Like, I'm at an age where if I make a business of publishing, I could probably figure out a way to have it financed.
mm.
But that's money in the air. That's money and burning
Yeah.
for
You're not
something that may not, I don't
yeah.
know. How
But
will it
locals may
succeed?
but locals may not even appreciate it. Um, you know.
Hey, it's Orc Mage.
Oh,
Orc Mage, we talked about Orc Mage because he is also Curious Chimeras, if I'm not mistaken. Let me know if I'm wrong, Orc Mage.
is that you?
Is that you? We were talking about you while we were asleep.
Yeah. We mentioned you if you are the one we speak of. But yeah.
Yeah, we're mini hustle. Yeah, you
Oh,
got you got it.
yeah,
Here you go.
yeah. There we go. The Chinese mindset. Chinese,
Let me know if I
Chinese.
let me know if I shot really out of left field there. If it's not correct.
I don't know. I mean, I can speak for the Chinese, the English educated Chinese. We love our mini corporations, hustle culture. I can't escape it. Um, oh yeah. Well, yeah. I guess I guess like I would like to point out that um I like to point out that like I would say I am quite okay off in terms of staying afloat in RPG SCE. It's just that I also don't know what I'm doing. I am not going to. I'm not in a place to be like I can advise people. I mean, I can give perspective, but I can't advise people. I'm not in a place to be like, this is stuff I should follow. Like you should look up to me or whatever, because I don't know. I don't know in. I know that I don't know enough to know that I want to leave, or at least like I know I don't know enough, and because of that, and because I know I don't know enough, I think I'm definitely going to take my stuff elsewhere. That's why I'm doing the masters overseas, right? Because I don't know. I feel like there used to be like people in the RPG SE space of who sort of like platform themselves as people who knew what they were doing, or people who were like sort of like advocacy for like queer representation or Asian representation. The truth is, I think, and yeah, like he's gone now, but like the truth is, like I guess speaking for myself, is like um I I'm really just like trying my best to like figure shit out as I go along. And if I don't hurt anyone, if I build connections along the way, if I do help people along the way, I think that's good. But yeah,
Yeah, and I guess to close that, on my end, what's really what really gets me and makes me fearful of doing things is that I have seen it since the 90s.
mm,
This culture of tabletop RPGs. When someone comes up and says he no, and it's always he. When someone comes up and says that he knows what he's doing and follow me so that we can bring this hobby to the next horizon or something something like that. Generally, they turn out to be shitty people, and
Yeah,
I'm always worried that I will turn into one of them.
because it's easy, isn't it? It's very easy if you have some kind of power. Yeah, like neither of us are exempt. Neither you and me, especially, we're not exempt from like this stuff possibly happening, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like shit. Oh, in 30 years, I may be, who that guy. So yeah.
So, oh, Macavity Kitty. There we go. Hello,
All right.
Macavity Kitty. Hi, random-ish question. But since it's been mentioned that is TTRPG a children's game, is it viable to market tabletop RPGs as like an educational tool for school-aged children and make it more accessible that way? Coming from someone who know and heard nothing about TRPGs until the past 2 years in my late 20s.
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion on this, Sam? Otherwise, I'll take it.
Uh, I can go first, then you go.
Sure.
I will say that it is an untapped market. It is an untapped market. My sister is doing it with her students. She is a lecturer, and she does like tutoring as well. She is doing it. RPGs in her work. Um, it is an untapped market. I do want to break it in the market if I had the time and energy. There's a lot of money to be had there. I'll just put it that way.
Okay, for me, what I can say about that is that there's a lot of um, there's a lot of ways it could go wrong. Because like I mentioned earlier, the tabletop RPG can be susceptible to people who want to take advantage of other people because of the power dynamic, the whole GM player relationship. That said, I do have one of my first late night BJs was with Elisa Versosa, who is studying in psychology in her master's right now. And that's one of the things that she's thinking about. How do you use RPGs as a tool? But in her case, it's for therapy. It's for mental health advocacies and stuff like that. I feel like it's adjacent, but not the same as what you're saying. Any application of RPGs has to have professional input. It cannot be just us designers. Like we can say that this is a therapeutic RPG, but unless you have the degree, I feel like or unless you are collaborating with someone who has the
Mm,
academic chops for it, then I feel like you are misrepresenting
mm,
what you're selling. So
yeah,
you have to do it properly. But that
yeah,
said, I think it can be done.
yeah.
Um,
I think the further away you get from the TRPG space, I think the more like not better, but I think it can work better because my sister doesn't have anything to do with us, but she's doing it well. She understands how to do it, and she's executing it well because she's a teacher first and foremost. You know what I mean? So she's yeah, yeah.
so yeah,
Oof.
I think that's it. Thank you for the questions. I guess we'll make a last call for questions, but otherwise, I think we are about ready to adjourn.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So,
we did do a lot of unpacking, but like we've only really just scratched the surface because this is really something we don't know enough about, even though we're in it. At least speaking for myself, anyway, I don't know enough. It's very, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot to unpack.
oh, okay. I guess yeah. I have also run for children, and what I was saying is very specific to running it with a specific purpose of like education or therapy or stuff like that. Then that would need professional advice slash help. But if you're basically running a game for children, and you're running it for children, then I don't think there's any problem with that. Sure, that's always, and children will always find ways. The what tabletop cinema
Yeah,
is saying is also rings true to me. It brings out their imagination in unexpected ways, and it also lets me see things that I would not have thought of. Like that's my favorite kind of player actually, the player who has never played before,
yeah, I
because
agree.
they will always do something that like, oh my gosh, I never thought that that was possible.
Yeah. And it's usually the players who don't game TTRPGs at all.
Yeah.
who have the most unexpected ideas and all. That's why I love playing for. I love running for like total newbies. Yeah.
All right. So, to close this out, do you want to repeat any spills that you had
Oh,
from the start of this stream, Sam?
wow. Uh, I don't know how I'm staying. I've been able to stay afloat. I've just been as myself and as honest as I can be. I've learned how to apologize and be genuine, but I've also been like, learning how to stay out of trouble, basically. Apart from that, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm very lucky. I'm very privileged. There's a lot to unpack there. The whole thing is a lot to unpack. Um, if you want to stay afloat in the RPG SEA, I can help you. I don't know.
So, for me, when it comes to RPG SEA, as one of the pioneers of the hashtag, my opinion is that if you identify as Southeast Asian and you make games, or you are in the space of playing RPGs, it doesn't have to be a designer. If you are a streamer of RPGs, if you if you just like to talk about RPGs, and especially if you're on Twitter, although also in other social media, just use the hashtag
Yeah,
RPGSEA, and then we'll find it, and then we'll interact.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it's easy to
Uh,
see naman if it's a spam.
I would like to plug the Playtest Zero playtest group with Thomas Manuel, Aaron Lim, Benji, Gubernuts. I'm in it. Gubernuts is in
Oh,
it.
good nuts.
I'm in Gubernuts. Yeah. Uh, we do playtests of games every other Tuesday on the Session Zero server. So you are free to come and playtest your games if you're from RPG SA. Even if you're not from RPG SA, if you're white, it's fine. Just come on. Yeah, yeah. By all
Do
means,
you
like
have a
we
link
are.
to that? If you have a link to that, give it to me on the
I
interview
don't know
chat.
if I'm allowed to give out the session
Oh.
zero invite link.
Well,
You're an
if you're not
admin,
allowed
right?
to, then don't.
Oh, hold on. You're an admin, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're an admin of that group. You,
Oh wait, am I?
you.
Oh gosh. Uh,
Session zero. Hold on. Let's check this
I
out.
don't
Are
think
you an
so.
admin?
Sorry, my Discord is not open
Okay, it's
because it
Maha
screws up. It's Mahar
Phil.
server, right?
It's the
Redacts
session zero.
memory.
Phil's there. I know. I think Pamu is there. I think Diwata is there as well. I mean, um, basically just okay. We need to check. But basically, if we do manage to open invite, by all means, please come over. Don't worry about bringing your broken stuff. Just bring your stuff. We'll play test it. We'll find out why it's broken. We will try our best. And we're quite friendly as well. Most of the stuff I think like 90% of the stuff we play test, it's crap. So don't worry.
That's why it's a playtest session, right? It's probably
Yeah,
crap.
it's all yeah. So yeah, you're always welcome. My DMs are open if you want to talk design. I think BIM server across RPG SEA as well.
Oh
Like
yeah,
there's some like good fun stuff happening.
I'm an admin
So
there,
that
so there you
you're
go.
an admin there.
Uh huh.
There's some fun stuff going on. Like we do the generator tables. We
The
do
random
WeChat
table
as
one.
well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
We
So
did
like,
have one this week, I think. You know what?
yeah,
I'm opening my Discord server. It doesn't matter if it's gonna crash something. Sometimes it crashes some of my streaming stuff. That's why I'm trying to hide it.
yeah, yeah. We have those spaces. If you're from RPGSA, by all means, just come. Just have fun with it. We all just.
Yeah, just PM us
Uh,
and then we'll get the link and we can invite you to join us.
yeah, yeah. Lots of interesting stuff. I lurk mostly. But yeah.
All
Okay.
right. So this has been Buko Juice with Sam, and always remember to drink your Buko Juice because it's high in electrolytes. I've been thinking about like an ending spiel, and nothing has worked. Something about drinking BJ's.
Just keep doing. Maybe that can be the do the maybe that can be the thing. You give like a lame Booker Juice fact, and then you end it with a BJ innuendo. I think that can be the thing. That can
Yes,
be the thing.
yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Always drink your Buko Juice anyway. Anyway, that's it. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for coming. Good night. Have a fun time.
Bye.